Listen to the summary of Chapter 1, How I Taught My Grandmother to Read, written by Sudha Murty in the NCERT English textbook Kaveri for Class 9th. The narrator in the village with grandparents. In this chapter, the narrator describes how she taught her grandmother to read. When the narrator was about 12, she used to stay in a village in North Karnataka with her grandparents. Due to the slow transport system then, they used to get the newspapers and magazines late. Triveni's novel and the old lady its main character. During that time, Triveni was a very popular writer in Kannada. Her stories dealt with the psychological problems of the ordinary people. They contained simple values, problems, and sufferings of people. Her works were very interesting and popular among the people. Her novel titled Kashi Yatre was appearing then as a serial in the Kannada weekly Karmavira. It is about an old lady and her great desire to go to Kashi or Varanasi. Most Hindus believe that going to Kashi and worshipping Lord Vishveshwara is the ultimate punya. The old lady saves money to go to Kashi. About the novel Kashi Yatre. In this novel, there is a young orphan girl who falls in love and wants to marry, but she has no money for the wedding. The old lady gives all her savings to the girl instead of going to Kashi herself. She finds the happiness of the orphan girl to be more important than her own wish to visit Kashi. Narrator reading the serial to her grandmother. The narrator's grandmother, Krishtaka, was illiterate. The narrator would read the next episode of this serial to her grandmother every Wednesday when the magazine arrived. Her grandmother listened to it with great attention and even forgot her work. Later, she would repeat the entire text by heart. She had identified herself with the old lady, main character of the novel. Thus, she had developed a great interest in knowing what would happen next. The narrator's grandmother would discuss the episode with her friends in the temple courtyard. The narrator and other children would play hide and seek then. Grandmother's reaction to the narrator's temporary absence. Once, the narrator went to a wedding in the neighboring village with her cousins and didn't return for a week. Her grandmother felt very sad. She had tears in her eyes when the narrator returned. Grandmother relating her story of life. It was summer, and the narrator and others were sleeping in the open terrace of the house. In that moonlit night, the grandmother went to the narrator and sat by her side. When asked what the matter was, the grandmother started narrating her story of life. Grandmother's married life. The grandmother lost her mother at a young age, and her father married again. In those days, people never considered education essential for girls, so she never went to school. She was married at a young age and had children and grandchildren. She enjoyed cooking for them and feeding them. She regretted not going to school herself, so she made sure that her children and grandchildren studied well. Grandmother's willingness to read the magazine. The narrator couldn't understand why her 62-year-old grandmother was telling all this to her. She consoled her weeping grandmother and asked how she could help her. The grandmother told the narrator that she took up the magazine Karmavira during her absence. She opened it and wanted to know about the story, but being illiterate, she couldn't read. She felt very dependent and helpless without her. Even though she could have asked any villager to read it for her, she was too embarrassed to do so and waited desperately for the narrator's return. Grandmother's determination to be literate. The grandmother told the narrator on her return that she had decided to learn the Kannada alphabet. She had fixed Saraswati Puja Day during Dasara as the deadline, by which she would be able to read the novel on her own. She asked the narrator to teach her. The narrator saw her determination, but still laughed at her because of her age. But the grandmother only smiled. The narrator as her grandmother's teacher. The narrator finally started teaching her grandmother, who proved to be very determined in learning. She was her grandmother's teacher, and the grandmother became her first student. Little did the narrator know that one day she would herself become a teacher in computer science. The grandmother proved to be a wonderful student. Grandmother treats the narrator as a teacher. The Dasara festival came as usual. The narrator bought Kashi Yatre novel as it had now been published. The grandmother called the narrator and gave her a gift of a frock material. She then touched the narrator's feet, which was unusual. As a tradition, elders never touch the feet of youngsters. But the grandmother treated the narrator not as her granddaughter, but as her teacher. She also added that now she could read any novel confidently. Her duty was to respect the teachers irrespective of the gender and age, and she did that. The narrator's gift to her grandmother. The narrator was touched from within. She returned namaskara to the grandmother by touching her feet. She also gave the novel Kashi Yatre as a gift to her grandmother. When her grandmother opened it, she immediately read the title and the publisher's name. At that moment, the narrator realized that her first student had truly passed with flying colors.